So thank you everyone for being here this evening. This is Dwayne Bradshaw, Director of Career Development for the Schar School of Policy and Government at George Mason University. And we are happy to have our partners at the Partnership for Public Service, a nonprofit that tries to work with students on getting them involved in the federal service. And Kristen Carroll, who is the manager for workforce program development at the partnership, is going to be speaking with us not only about their broader uh, FLIPS program, which is Future Leaders in, uh, it's not federal service, I can't remember, public
Public
service.
service. Hmm.
Thank you. But also a um, working collaboration between the partnership and the Schar School, where we can post students into the U.S. Department of Transportation. So at this point, I will turn it over to Kristen.
Thank you so much, Dwayne, and welcome everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And before we get started, I do want to acknowledge that Mindy Pham is here with me this evening. Mindy is a George Mason alum and also an alum of the Future Leaders program. So she will be joining me a bit later on just to share about her experience as an intern. I also want to briefly address the current state of government, and particularly for young people who are interested in pursuing jobs and internships in government. It has been a challenging time. I'm sure if you're keeping up with current events, a lot has happened to the federal civil service within the last few weeks through executive orders, through a federal hiring freeze, and also reduction in force that has heavily affected people in their probationary period, which often includes a lot of early career talent. It's devastating. The partnership's mission is to support civil servants and to uplift their work and the importance of their work. And we've had to do a lot of soul searching at the partnership these last few weeks of what is the point of our work? Why am I here tonight to try to encourage you to enter into government when so much is uncertain and unstable right now? And I think the honest answer is because the work still matters. Our civil servants are still working every day to keep the country running and to make sure people's basic human needs are met. And whether this information is useful to you in 4 weeks or 4 months or 4 years, it is our hope that you're here tonight for a reason. There is something about whether it was just a paid internship opportunity, which is totally valid, or something specific to public service that you need to come this evening. And so I completely understand. Before I started the partnership, I worked in career development in a role very similar to Dwayne's, and I would counsel students and do events like this. Um, I encourage you, as I would any person, to just keep your search broad, to consider government, but also consider nonprofits and NGOs and the private sector, and to also just do some internal soul searching of what drew you to the idea of public service in the first place and what are similar industries or organizations or fields that you can still accomplish a similar mission. And it might not be easy to work in government right now, but it is possible. And our Future Leaders program is one path into public service right now. Um, so I'm happy when we have Q&A at the end. I don't want to make this session that the intention tonight is really to talk about our Future Leaders and Public Service internship program. And so I will keep it there, but I am happy if you have more general questions about searching for government jobs right now. I'm happy to answer those as well. And I'll share some of the partnerships resources in the chat. So with that, I will get into our content. I just wanted to be honest with everyone, but I hope that the internship program provides a spot of positivity and potential and opportunity. And I also will note, as you are job and internship searching, there are other third-party internship programs that are still operating, even if some of the agency run internships are on pause right now because of the hiring freeze. So, our agenda for this evening, I will talk about the Future Leaders program, go through the application process and timeline, just share some program highlights from past interns, and then talk to Mindy, our alum, and then we'll have Q&A. So the Future Leaders in Public Service Internship Program, I should also say this is for fall 2025. So the application window for summer 2025 has already closed. So we're looking specifically for the fall. Benefits of this program, it is a 10 to 12 week internship with a federal agency. So Dwayne mentioned in the past, we have partnered with the Department of Transportation. We've also had some students at the National Science Foundation, and our partners for the fall are still being determined, but likely will include some of the organizations that we have worked with in the past, as well as potential for new agencies. It is a part-time, so 20 hours a week internship for 10 to 12 weeks. And the pay is $3,500 per student for the internship, so a set stipend rate. There are in-person and hybrid options available, so that means you can work your entire internship, your 20 hours a week in person, or hybrid combinations. So some days you might be in person and some days working remotely. The partnership also offers professional development opportunities. So something that can often be confusing about this internship structure is who exactly runs the program and where are you doing the work. So the partnership facilitates this internship program in partnership with federal agencies. So we help the agencies have more capacity to recruit interns, to interview interns. The internship itself will take place at an agency. So you won't be reporting to the partnerships office. I will not be your direct supervisor. You will have a supervisor at your agency, but the partnership is there to provide an additional layer of support through professional development workshops throughout the cohort, as well as orientations. And I'm available just if you have questions, concerns, need someone to talk something through with. We are there throughout the whole process. You'll be able to build leadership and networking skills. You'll have access to our alumni network, so folks like Mindy and others who have been through the program already and that we often invite back to engage with our current interns. So it's a really nice way to grow your network. And you'll also get to connect with peers. So you may be at an agency where there are not only students from George Mason, but other institutions as well. And you'll have opportunities to come together with all of our interns, across states and various universities. And I should say, if you have any questions, as they come up, just feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll get to them, address them once I finish the content portion. So we have the Future Leaders program. In the fall, we have a select number of placements specifically for Schar School students. And I'll get more into the specifics of that and who is eligible. But I do just want to walk you through our website, and hopefully you can see this tab that just came up. Please just Dwayne or someone jump on. If you cannot see, you should be seeing our website. So this is the Fall 2025 Future Leaders website. Everything I talk about today is also available on this page, including a link to the application itself. But you'll see, and we'll talk more about these, there's the program tracks, agency partners. So as I mentioned in the past, we've worked with the Department of Transportation and the National Science Foundation. We've also worked with these other agencies, and we expect to work with a combination of some of these agencies in the fall. So for program eligibility, you'll notice that there is a section of placement opportunities specifically for George Mason Schar School. So you can expand that. We will talk about all of these requirements in more detail in a moment. But I did just want to call out on the website as you look for information to make sure you're clicking on the placement for Schar School. And then there's also a separate FAQ section for the Schar School. So hopefully a lot of your questions will be answered here. If not, our email is available. I never know if it's the top or bottom, but it's internships@ourpublicservice.org. And I'll make sure you have that in the chat as well. And then here is the link to apply. Might have to, this is always the clunky part. I have to stop sharing and then get back to my presentation. Apologies. Okay, let me. All right. Okay, so program eligibility, you do, and these are specific to the opportunities that are bookmarked for Schar School. We are anticipating to have about 10 spots available for the fall that we hold specifically for Schar students. So this eligibility applies to those spots specifically. So you will have to be a US citizen at the time of application submission. And to participate in the Fall Future Leaders program, you need to be enrolled currently, or I'm sorry, in the fall, you will have to be enrolled as an undergraduate senior or a graduate student in a program at the Schar School of Policy and Government. So if you are a current junior, you are eligible to apply because you will be a senior by fall 2025. And if you're a senior and going into a graduate program at Schar School, you are eligible to apply because you will be enrolled in a graduate program in the fall. If you are a senior who is graduating in the spring in May 2025, or if you're in your second year of your graduate program and graduating in May, unfortunately, you are not eligible. You do have to be enrolled in a program in the fall. You have to have a minimum GPA of 3.0, and then you have to have interest in one of the following career tracks. And we'll talk a bit more about the career tracks and that process on the next slide. And you must also, if you are selected for the program, you must successfully complete a background check before you're able to begin in September. So we have 6 program tracks available. I also think the application process can be a bit confusing because often at the time you apply, we may not have finalized our agency hosts yet. So we can't say for certain the agencies we're working with and the specific tracks that those agencies have available. So the way that you will apply, when you click on the application, it will ask you for your university. It will auto-populate. So as you start to put in George Mason, it will then ask you, are you a student of the Schar School? You can click yes or no. If you click yes, it will automatically move you into this pool to be considered for the Schar specific spots. And then from there, you will get to select 2 tracks that you are most interested in. This just gives us an indication of the track you're interested in. It is in no way a commitment. And for example, if you pick data science and government contracting as your top 2 tracks, but then come to find out we only have spots available for those who selected liberal arts, you will not be automatically disqualified. We would come back to you and let you know, I see that you selected data science and contracting. We happen to only have spots available with this agency in liberal arts. Are you still interested? And then you can opt in or out. So don't overthink the tracks too much. Be honest about them. I know it's challenging because we don't have the final agencies yet, but just pick the two that you're most interested in. Um, and I will say for those like such as data science, where it says it's open to candidates with specific technical backgrounds, it's okay if you do not have a major that falls into one of these categories, like statistics, engineering, data analytics. It's okay if that's not your major, but maybe you have coursework in one of those areas. Maybe you're planning to go to graduate school to explore that. Maybe you're involved in a student club or organization that like does a lot of data analytic or data science work. So it doesn't have to be dependent, the track that you select, on your major. It's really where your interest lies. And as long as you can demonstrate some interest, enthusiasm, and experience around that track in your essay questions, that's all that matters. All right, so we have data science, government contracting and acquisition, liberal arts. We also have public administration, public interest technology and AI, and then science, math, and engineering. And then these are historically some examples of the placements that we have had. These are specific to students from the Schar School who have participated in the Future Leaders program. So Department of Transportation and National Science Foundation, and the range of positions, from legal intern, program assistant, research and analysis, working in the Office of Human Resources, working in policy offices. So it's really varied. And we hope to provide a range of experiences to fit a lot of different students' interests and backgrounds. All right. The application itself, it is an online application. I think it is fairly straightforward. So you'll have to give some basic personal information, your name, your address, your email, phone number. It will ask for your university, like I mentioned, and then you'll select your tracks. It will also ask you to upload an unofficial transcript. I will emphasize unofficial. You do not need to have your official transcript. We ask for that just to double check your GPA and make sure that the GPA that you self-input on the application matches the GPA on your transcript. And we also do that to verify that you will be enrolled for the fall 2025 term. So if we receive a transcript that shows you graduated in May 2025, we'll know that you unfortunately are not eligible for the opportunity. I also acknowledge it is very tricky. You have to apply by May 2nd, and by May 2nd, you might not have a transcript that has your fall course load on it yet. You just might not have enrolled in fall classes. That is okay. It happens all the time. Hopefully, one day we'll come up with a better solution for this. But for now, just upload your most recent academic transcript. So it might just have enrollment through spring 2025. And then we will reach out to you in the summer once we're reviewing applications and just ask you for an updated transcript so that we can confirm that you are in fact enrolled in the fall. You'll also upload a resume, and this is a standard 1-page, 2-page max resume. This is not a full federal resume. And if you're familiar with the difference between a federal resume and a private sector resume, a federal resume is usually much longer, like minimum 2 pages, usually 2 to 5 pages. It is very comprehensive. You do not need to submit a federal style resume for this opportunity. Just a standard 1 to 2 page resume is perfect. And then there are essay questions that you will respond to. I believe there are four. Um, and they just focus on your experience, like very common questions. Why are you interested in this opportunity? An example of leadership, a time you've displayed leadership, a time you overcame a challenging situation. So it's pretty standard, I would say, like nothing too tricky or out of the ordinary. And then a letter of recommendation is highly encouraged but optional. So just something to think about ahead of that May 2nd deadline. If you do want to have a mentor, a faculty member, boss, whoever write you a letter of recommendation, just to give them ample time to be able to submit that by May 2nd. I do see some questions in the chat, so I'm going to pause and just see. Pardon me. Thank you, Dwayne, for sharing resources in the chat. Uh, okay, and Armand, I will get to your question at the end if that is all right. Okay. So additional application tips, please explore what career development options are available to you through George Mason, through the Schar schools. So just take your resume to a trusted faculty, staff, peer to get some feedback on your resume. You are welcome to do the same with your essay questions as well. Specifically about the essay questions, try and use different examples for each question. And I'm one of the people, we do read every single application we receive, and it is nice as someone who reviews the application. If I'm reading about the exact same example in all four essay questions, you're not going to be scored as highly if we're getting a real sense of the breadth of your work and different examples for each question. And the essay questions, you are prompted to keep them focused on your professional, academic, and community experiences. So volunteering, past jobs, internships, on-campus involvement, and then academic, curricular classroom involvement. And I will say the last point, I cannot stress enough, if you use AI to help with your essay questions, please use it carefully. I cannot tell you, having read hundreds of applications this fall for our summer program, they all sound the same. Like we know which ones use ChatGPT. They all start the same way, they end the same way, they have the same transition words. We know what to look for. AI can be a great tool. Like we have an AI track of this program, but just be careful, as I'm sure you've heard from faculty and others. Use it as a starting point and then incorporate your own voice and tone. Switch up the words, like make sure it sounds authentically you, because we do have a rubric for scoring applications, and applications that we feel rely heavily on AI and are pretty much unaltered from AI do not score as highly. So our application timeline, applications are open now through May 2nd, and they will close 11 Eastern time on May 2nd. The system will time you out if you start your application at like 11:45 but have not finished it by 11:59, you will be cut out of the system. So just keep that in mind. Don't wait until the very last minute. I would say give yourself at least an hour after you apply. So from uh, mid-June. So from like May when you apply into mid-June, that's when we do our internal review. That's when we're looking to make sure your GPA is 3.0 and you're enrolled in the fall, that you have a complete application, we have your unofficial transcript. And then by mid-June, you'll be notified of your eligibility status. So we do an initial eligibility check. If you pass that eligibility check, you will be notified. And at that point, your application moves over to the agency. The agencies from there will review your application and reach out to schedule an interview if you are moving forward in the process. So from mid-June through the end of July, that is when agencies will be doing their own review and selection. You will hopefully, if you are being offered an internship for the fall, will know by the end of July. That gives you the month of August to complete your background check, to have orientation with us, and just start to get onboarded to begin on September 15th. And then the internship is 10 to 12 weeks. So it will go until, I believe it's Friday, December 5th is the last possible day of the internship. Some past professional development that we have offered. These are all opportunities that we had this past fall, 2024, for our fall interns. So various keynote speakers from agencies who we try and find people who are under 35, so more like young, early career, just to talk about their experience in government. These are really like nice, small, intimate conversations where you can be able to get some contact info, add that person to your network, be able to reach out to them afterwards. It's a great way just to grow connections. We had a Navigating Your Federal Career Expo. So it was an in-person hiring fair with a couple, many agencies. I think we had about 17 attended to speak with. We had another session on launching your career in federal government. So how to write a federal resume, how to navigate USA jobs, um, building trust in government. So the partnership does a lot of research, and one point of research is young people's trust in government. So we had a bit of a focus group on that topic. We had a resume writing workshop specifically with federal employees in human resources in hiring roles. So like the first people who read your resume when you apply to something on USA Jobs, they were the ones giving their resume tips, which is so valuable. And then we had an intern lightning talk where interns presented their work to their peers and to our intern supervisors, agency contacts. Just as a great way of practicing talking about yourself, your work, your experience as an intern. And then some program highlights. I did just want to share this testimonial through a Schar School alum, Helena, who was an intern at the Department of Transportation. I won't, well, maybe I will just read the whole thing. Through my time as the communications intern at the Federal Railroad Administration, I gained a comprehensive understanding of federal workings, solidified my commitment to a federal career, and advanced skills crucial for success in this dynamic professional sphere. Working in a federal agency for the first time helped me gain perspective on what I want from a federal position, while understanding each department and office within it have varying goals and visions. Um, I'll stop there. I won't read the whole thing, but I think it just speaks to the impact of the internship program, that you do learn a lot and quickly. And to what I was saying earlier, it is a challenging time for government, but there are still federal employees doing really great work. We have interns this spring, a small cohort who I checked in with all their intern supervisors today just to do a midpoint check-in, and who are still having good experiences. So I'm happy that the partnership is still able to provide this opportunity for students as an entry point into government when that has gotten a bit more challenging recently. So let me just check the chat again before we get into our conversation with Mindy. So Armand asks, can our letter of recommendation come from a professor? Yes, absolutely. It does not have to be a former or current supervisor. It can be a professor. Yes, it can be staff. It could be Dwayne. Actually, I don't know if it can be Dwayne. I don't know if you recused yourself, Dwayne, but it can be someone on either the faculty or staff side of your campus. And then The closing time of the application is 11:59 p.m. Eastern on May 2nd. And the system will time you out. And let me go back up to my last question. Uh, this opportunity is for the fall. As a current full-time grad student, I'm wondering if you have recommendations for where to look for summer opportunities. Yes. So I will touch briefly. If you are looking for a summer internship, and I can put this in the chat, or Dwayne, if you're able to grab it, but the partnership does have a federal internship finder. It is an aggregate of data of opportunities that have historically been available in government. This doesn't answer your question about NGOs specifically, but it'll just as a starting point. So I would recommend the Federal Internship Finder. It's very user friendly, so you're able to sort by I'm looking for summer, I'm looking for paid opportunities. If there are specific agencies or career areas you're interested in, you can filter, filter, filter to get very curated results for what you're looking for. The Finder does include third-party internships, so things like Future Leaders Program that are hosted by other organizations, and that third-party internships is a great loophole right now since we're in a federal hiring freeze, but third-party internships are still able to operate. So I would use the Finder with the caveat that it is historically positions that have been available and not necessarily positions that are currently live on USA Jobs or on that third party organization's website. It's a research tool. It helps you just establish what is out there, what are the roles, and when do I apply? Are they paid or unpaid? And from there, you can click on learn more. And so you find an opportunity you're interested in, you can click learn more, and it will take you out to that actual agency or third party website. From there, you can check and see, like, is this opportunity still live, currently accepting opportunities, and all the details about when and how to apply. Um, I would definitely utilize your career development services, talk to your faculty. There is a lot of shifting work right now in the DMV area. So I would just keep that in mind as part of your search as well. But there are websites specifically for, I think Work for Good is for one of them. Idealist is another that are specific to nonprofit jobs in sort of the policy and social services space. So I will pause there. I hope that answers or at least gives you some direction. Thank you for sharing Work for Good, Dwayne, and the Finder. All right. And we will have more time for questions at the end. And so now I would love to introduce Mindy Pham, who is a George Mason alum, graduated in December 2024 with a BS in Public Administration and minor in Spanish, and was also a Future Leaders and Public Service intern at the Department of Transportation. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so that you can see both of us. All right. Hi, Mindy.
Kristen, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So we're just going to do this a little Q&A style, and then I can open it up for questions from everyone. Just pulling up my questions. Mindy, I know I just introduced you, but if you would like to introduce yourself and just give maybe a little background on your hometown, what brought you to George Mason, and yeah, I also talked about your major, but if there's anything you want to add, like about what you studied or focused on while you were at Mason, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. So again, my name's Mindy. I'm a George Mason alum, graduated in December, and I studied public administration with a public policy concentration and Spanish minor. And I'm from the DMV. I'm from Virginia, so I'm local to the DC area.
Thank you. And what was your experience applying for the Future Leaders Program? How did you hear about it? I'm assuming it was through something like this or through Dwayne, but how did you hear about the program? What was the process of applying? And especially, what was the process like of hearing from the agency and moving through their interview process?
Yeah, so I first heard about the program actually through Dwayne's email. I saw the little ad for that internship program, and I'd been looking into it. And then it was also one of my professors. I think it was Lucas Nunez, my Gov Stats professor. He had recommended me for that program as well, so I decided to apply. I think it was a pretty straightforward application process from what I remember. It was your basic information, your major, and a few questions just asking about your interest in federal government, public service, in addition to maybe writing a personal statement. And then with the interview process, I think it was I think it was a panel interview, if I remember correctly, with the internship coordinator at DOT. Her name was Renita, and maybe there might have been someone from partnership as well. I can't remember exactly. But during that interview, it was just a way for me to share my experience and just how that's applicable to why I want to be working in federal government.
Can you tell us more about what you did as an intern, so sort of day in life, what your day-to-day projects were like, meetings that you were able to go to, and also any, if you want to highlight any projects that you were particularly proud of or excited to work on.
Yeah, so specifically, I was at DOT Office of Civil Rights for the Federal Highway Administration. And so the day-to-day pretty much varied based on what the office needed that day. But typically, I was working under the anti-harassment coordinator. So I was helping with intake for cases of workplace harassment allegations. And that's probably one of the main projects I did during my time there. So there's this thing called the fact-finding process where you help schedule the interviews for anyone who was involved in that harassment allegation. And then I would write up summaries of the interview. And then I would work with the anti-harassment coordinator to draft up a final report of all the allegations and then send that off to the decision maker to determine whether or not that was a case of workplace harassment. And what else? There were also these special emphasis events. I think DEI was a very big thing, given that I was in the Office of Civil Rights. So I was hoping to coordinate different events, just highlighting like National Women's History Month or National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and just topics like that also.
I'm glad that you were given such substantial projects to work on. Were there specific skills that you feel like you utilized the most, whether that was research, writing, communication, data input?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely writing. When it came to those interviews, there's a lot of content. So just being able to summarize and then pick out key details, that was a very big skill that I utilized there. In addition to time management and organization, especially with it being such a large agency, there's lots of information going around every day. So just being able to manage all of the new news or different types of information coming at you is also very important.
How would you recommend that interns make the most of their experience, whether that's through like getting the most from your supervisor, seeking out mentorship,
Mhm.
networking opportunities, or professional development?
Definitely all of those that you listed. I would definitely emphasize the importance of networking. And networking, it doesn't necessarily have to be like this big fancy meeting. It can just be, having a coffee chat or talking with your coworker about a certain project and just not being afraid to ask questions, I think is the best way to not only learn, but to connect with other people as well. Being an intern, the office knows that, you're new, you're still learning. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to ask questions. That's the best way you can make the most of your experience.
What Did you know by the end of your internship that you wish you had known when you started, or like wish you had known just as a student?
Yeah, I would go back to networking. I think I was a little scared to be talking to all these new people, and that was actually my first time in a federal government position. So it did feel a little overwhelming initially, but if I had reached out a little more to my coworkers and asked for some support or even asked more questions, I think they would have been more than happy to guide me along the way. And that would have been a very fulfilling experience as well.
And then how did you balance being a student, like a full-time student, with a 20-hour a week internship, especially when you had like really substantive projects that you were working on?
Yeah, I would definitely say this is where time management skills come in. I personally use a planner and I write down all of the deadlines for assignments or deadlines for the projects that I had. And if it got to the point where I felt that, the workload was a little too much for me at the time, I would actually just talk with my supervisor and ask her, like, hey, could we extend this deadline by a couple of days? I'm a little swamped with like exams and stuff. And we were able to work something out. And again, it's just asking those questions and communicating that really helps out.
Thank you